Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton for Sunday morning worship. Here in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. And we extend a special welcome to everyone visiting with us this morning. We're really glad that you're here. We hope you find us warm and welcoming, and we'd love to get to know more about you after the service. If you haven't already, please stop by the newcomer table in Robinson Lounge so that we can add you to our e-lists and give you updates on all the many different programs and events that we have happening here in our congregation. This is our annual flowers celebration service. Welcome. This is one of our great traditions in our faith and congregation. If you brought a flower to be part of the ritual later on in the service and haven't brought it up to the table yet, please do so during that time in the service where we greet each other. Just come on up and add your flower, and then we'll do the exchange later in the service. And a quick reminder that after the service today, we do have our annual meeting. We ask all of our members to stay right here after the service, and we'll go right into that annual meeting very quickly. And then we go have our spring picnic, and we couldn't have ordered a better day for that. So service, meeting, picnic, wonderful day today. Princeton Eats Plants invites you to their monthly potluck gathering. That's on Wednesday, June 5th at 6 to meet and 6:30 to eat. Bring a whole food plant-based meal to share. And if the weather is nice this week, that group's going to meet outside by the Memorial Garden. So plan accordingly. Otherwise, they'll be in Founders Room. And we are also pleased to be once again hosting the Not in Our Town Unity Awards. That's this Thursday, 5:30 dinner, 6:30 program. If you come to the dinner, please bring some baked goods to share. That celebration is awesome. It honors high school students doing great work around anti-bias and anti-racism and inclusivity in their schools. It's really uplifting and positive. So if you're free this Thursday at 5:30 for dinner or 6:30 for the program, come on back to UU Princeton for that. And then on Saturday, we have fellowship night. Gather for board games and card games, friendship fun, and pizza at 6 p.m. on Saturday. We do ask you to sign up on the website so that we know how much pizza to order. And then next Sunday following worship, you're warmly invited to meet and greet Jessica Aliamo, the newly appointed executive director of the Murray Grove Retreat Center, which is a beautiful UU retreat and conference center out on the shore. That'll be after worship for that meet and greet. And lastly, what a joy it is to welcome back Reverend Jennifer Kelleher. Jennifer has been on sabbatical since February. We are so thrilled to see you again. Welcome back. We've missed you. There's a little bit more later in the service to welcome you back, but we all look forward to catching up and hearing about your time away. Welcome back. And now let us be together for this hour to remember peace, to praise the good, to care for one another, and to grow in love. Come, let us worship together.
O Holy One, I ran through the fields and gathered flowers of 1,000 colors, and now I pour them out at your feet. Their beauty and their brightness shout for joy in your presence. You created the flowers of the fields and made each one far more lovely than all the skill of man could design. Accept my joy along with theirs, this field of blossoms at your feet. Holy One, as the wind blows through these flowers till they dance in the ecstasy of creation, send your spirit to blow through my being till I too bloom and dance with the fullness of your life.
Sorry? Yeah, it was.
On behalf of all of the children and adults of the Children and Youth Ministry, we miss you very much. These flowers.
And say welcome back. And I can tell you, as being the sabbatical coordinator for Children and Youth Ministry and having a little glimpse behind the curtain, it is very well organized. There's many spreadsheets and lots of notes, and I had everything I needed to do the job very well. So thank you very much. You're doing a wonderful job for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Welcome back. Good to do that.
I'll just say briefly that I'm so grateful for the care and love and support. We clergy do a special thing, and we do it with all our love and all our hearts. And I'm so incredibly grateful to have had this time to renew and refresh and connect with some other of my loved ones so I can be back with all of you who I love just as deeply.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that song. That's amazing. Thank you. But as usual, today I have a story about a graduate student. In the early 1950s, American anthropologist and archaeologist Ralph Selecki was looking for a potential dig site in the Kurdish region of Iraq, urgently seeking a promising thesis topic, as a number of us in the room have probably done. Selecki was probably excited to hear from locals about a cave where bones had been found. This site, Shanidar Cave, was even more promising than he could have imagined. With a team from the University of Michigan and then the Smithsonian Institution and Iraqi Directorate of Antiquities, Selecki began to excavate a cache of 40,000-year-old human remains, or rather, Neanderthal remains. At that time, people didn't think of Neanderthals as human. They were believed to be a completely separate species of archaic hominids that had diverged from our species, Homo sapiens, between 300 and 800,000 years ago. The common perception of Neanderthals was that they were more ape-like than human, ugly, unintelligent, and lacking in language or any other form of culture. Their lives in Ice Age Europe and the Near East were believed to be, to appropriate Thomas Hobbes, nasty, brutish, and short. What Ralph Selecki found in Shanidar Cave, however, turned that idea on its head. One male Neanderthal excavated in 1957 and known to archaeologists as Shanidar 1 was 35 to 45 years old when he died. Evidence from his remains tell us that at a young age, he experienced a severe blow to his head that damaged his right eye, potentially blinding him in that eye. The brain damage from that head trauma also led to partial paralysis that withered his right arm and leg. He would have had difficulty seeing, walking, and doing daily tasks in his life. He certainly couldn't have helped support his social group with activities like hunting. But Shanidar 1 lived into middle age, old age for Neanderthals. His bones had signs of healing. His group didn't abandon him on account of his injuries. Instead, they took care of him, which doesn't sound very animal-like to me. Selecki found remains from 9 other individual Neanderthals in the cave. The one that made him famous, however, wasn't Shanidar 1. It was Shanidar 4. This individual was also a man who had died in his 30s or 40s. His skeleton was found in the fetal position, as if he had been intentionally laid to rest that way. Selecki speculated that this was evidence that Neanderthals had burial rituals, culture, or even religion. Even more remarkable, analysis of the soil around him found signs of pollen from ancient bluebonnets, hollyhock, and hyacinths. Shanidar 4, Selecki and his team believed, had been buried with flowers. This so-called flower burial made headlines around the world. It completely transformed how people imagined our distant Neanderthal cousins, not as savage apes, but as sensitive people who mourned their dead and saw beauty in the natural world. As Selecki himself said, although the body was archaic, the spirit was modern. The flower burial is a beautiful story, especially as we engage in our own ritual of flower communion today. Unfortunately, some modern scientists have cast doubt on Selecki's theory that Shanidar 4 was buried with flowers intentionally. Some theorize that burrowing rodents brought pollen into the soil around his body, a much less romantic notion. But even if Shanidar 4 hadn't been buried exactly the way Selecki imagined, his findings at Shanidar Cave still had an important impact. They made Neanderthals human to people around the world. More recent scientific discoveries have proven him right in ways he couldn't have imagined. Today, almost every person on the planet has a little bit of Neanderthal DNA, about 2% for those of us with European or Asian ancestry. Somewhere in our past, hundreds and hundreds of generations ago, we had a Neanderthal mom and a Homo sapiens dad, or vice versa. Ancient Homo sapiens clearly saw Neanderthals as human. If that's the case, how can we see each of our fellow Homo sapiens as anything less? Thank you.
The Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "Whenever I touch a flower, I touch the sun, and yet I do not get burned. When I touch a flower, I touch a cloud without flying to the sky. When I touch a flower, I touch my consciousness, your consciousness, and the great planet Earth at the same time." He concludes, "If you really touch one flower deeply, you touch the whole cosmos." He was drawing out his thoughts on interbeing, or the sense that all is related, all is connected, and all is one. He himself wrote about being connected to the magical and the mundane, interconnected with everything from majestic waves and soaring mountaintops to loose teas at the bottom of a cup and the warm, soapy dishwater used to clean it. His way of growing into this belief was to pause and notice, to stop and listen, to breathe and be while the world presented both its once in a lifetime and everyday miracles before him. He taught his students to do this: stop, notice, and breathe. From there, not always, but sometimes, experiences of unity and peace would arise. One would feel connected and embraced even, if not by the entire cosmos, then by the part of it we are encountering. We would sink our hands into the warm, soapy dishwater and find ourselves not at chore, but at peace, a peace as great as that known on top of a beautiful mountain. His was the spirituality of the everyday and everywhere. It insisted on interconnectedness, it sought peace, and demanded only that we stop, notice, and breathe in the beauty and wonder around us. For in that we would know not only the peace and gift of this moment for us, but the peace and gift that is that moment for everyone. It was a similar urge that led the Unitarian minister Norbert Čapek to create a flower ceremony in Prague in the 1920s. At the time, he served the largest Unitarian congregation in the world, and he sought to help the congregation feel more connected to one another and to senses of beauty and wonder. Typical for Unitarian congregations at that time, the gathered flock leaned a bit too much toward individualism. They sometimes needed to remember the value of living more interconnected lives, that we are not alone, we are one with all. And also typical for Unitarian congregations at the time, they were very, 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 very rational, which is a good thing, but not when it is so doctrinal that it becomes restrictive. He wanted them to know that they were more than their minds, that they could affirm beauty as well as critique tradition, that their greatest value was not in what they knew, but in how they lived with each other. He wanted to help them wonder and to know beauty, to experience it without explaining it, and to know it in each other's lives so that they would feel more connected to each other and that beauty. And so he did what we're doing, asked people to bring a flower, any flower, to a worship service with them on a particular Sunday. And he led a very simple liturgy in which people exchanged them, and they left with a reminder of one another and their shared lives. They created a space of beautiful diversity, unified by their shared faith and love, and went home with symbols of those values and gifts. He did not call it flower communion, but that is the common term for it in our faith today. And for many congregations, it happens somewhere near the end of the church year in the spring. And it bookends water communion, which many congregations, including ours, celebrate in September to start our year together. We start by merging water. We conclude by giving each other flowers. And during the months and weeks in between, we grow together in our common lives in shared ministries of hope, love, justice, and joy. But to be clear, church doesn't end after this Sunday. It goes right on through the fall. We go right through the summer, and we have a really awesome summer plan. Rainbow Ministry is leading the service next week. And later on, Patricia will preach, Pauline will preach, Kirsten will preach, Reverend Jennifer will preach, and you'll even be stuck with me here and there for a few Sundays over the summer too. The summer is a really fun time to worship here at UU Princeton, and we definitely don't take it off. We keep right at it. Unitarian Universalism is needed year-round everywhere. But we do close the year ritually with this flower ceremony given to us by Chopik, who wished for his flock and ours lives of connection and wonder. He wished us to know the diverse beauty of our individual and our shared lives. He wanted us to appreciate the freedom to offer the flower we wish and the grace to receive the flower wished upon us, both given in goodwill, in peace, and with prayers for happiness. And with that, we move into the world changed by this ritual and how we enliven it together. We see flowers and we think of one another and know that all are beautiful and that diversity is a strength and that we are connected. The ritual today enlivens itself anew when we drive past a field of wildflowers and notice their beauty, or buy a bouquet for someone who is sick, which gives them a little solace, or see an arrangement at a wedding and wish that couple love. The ritual of today becomes a ritual of any day when we see a flower and pause and breathe in its unique beauty. And then remember that we are one with all the forces that created it, and then live with concern and devotion to that great interconnected web. And when that happens, which takes time and practice and lots of stopping and noticing and smelling the roses, our appreciation leads to not only a sense of peace within, but a sense of commitment beyond ourselves. We start to live in each other's interests more. We find a certain fullness in affirming the diverse beauty of all life and of all our commitment to tending it. The flower's power becomes not just in the beauty and good feeling it arises within us, but in how it grows and tends within and among us, this broader ethic of sharing hope, love, justice, and joy for all, everywhere, every day. May our ritual this morning honor and echo the great faith of Chopik and the Prague congregation who turned an idea into one of our most lasting rituals. And as it did for them, may it bring us closer. May it remind us of beauty and diversity, and may it send us forth into the world committed to sharing all of our holy and sacred messages. Amen. We begin our flower celebration with a blessing of these flowers. This one was written by one of our seminarians, Pauline Nijander, who couldn't be here today. She's traveling for work, but generously sent in a blessing for this service. So this blessing is Pauline's, these are Pauline's words. Blessed Earth Mother, we thank you for this beautiful gift of flowers before us. We thank you for all the beautiful colors, the different shapes, the different scents, and the different sizes of flowers that burst forth from our gardens and our fields, enticing everyone from the smallest of creatures to the stoutest of humans to pause and drink in your beauty. May we take to heart the lesson that you teach us with the gift of flowers, the lesson that regardless of size, shape, or color, there is infinite beauty out there for us to see. All we need to do is be willing to stop and see it, both in the flowers and the weeds before us and the people around us. Please continue to grace us with the gift of flowers you give year after year, so that we may always have the reminder of the beauty of the earth and its inhabitants. May we never tire of this gift. May we now follow in your footsteps and give this gift of flowers to each other as a recognition of that beauty and that holiness that is capable of blooming within each of us. Blessed be, and amen. And we will now exchange our flowers. If you didn't bring flowers, the good news is a miracle happens every year. It's a loaves and fishes thing. There's plenty of flowers up here. So come on up, whether you added flowers to our table or not. This communion is open to all. We invite you to come down the center aisle, pick the flower that speaks to you, and then head back down the side aisles as Sue plays beautiful music. All are welcome forward for a flower.
This is the consecration of the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversity of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen.
And here at the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light stays with us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.